Have you ever wondered if giving your kids too much could actually make them weaker? Picture this. You're nearing retirement, ready to hand over the wealth you've saved, hoping to secure a bright future for your children. But what if I told you that by giving them everything, you could be doing more harm than good? Before we dive deeper, I want you to listen closely to this story. It holds a powerful lesson, could change the way you think about wealth, parenting, and what it really means to set your kids up for success. Meet Anna. Like many parents, she planned to pass down her assets and savings to her children, thinking it was the best way to ensure their future. Sound familiar? But before she could follow through, her wise friend Matthew gave her some advice that stopped her in her tracks. "Anna," he said calmly, "giving too much can be like overwatering a plant. Instead of helping it grow, you might just drown it." Could it be that Anna's generosity was setting her children up not for success, but for dependency? For weakness instead of strength? With love in her heart, Anna gave her son Daniel a large sum of money after she retired. "Now you can finally chase your dreams," she told him, full of joy. What Anna didn't realize was that this gift would spark a chain of events that would alter Daniel's life in ways she never expected. Ecstatic with his newfound wealth, Daniel quit his job. "Why bother working when I've got all this money?" But what Daniel didn't see was the trap he had just walked into. What seemed like a gift quickly turned into a burden. He lost his sense of purpose, his drive, and the motivation to keep growing. This is exactly what the ancient Stoic philosophers warned about. They believed that reliance on material wealth could weaken the human spirit. The great Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "Wealth is not something we should depend on, but a tool to test our resilience and wisdom." When Daniel received that money without effort, he lost the need to learn, grow, or face challenges, things that give life its true meaning. In fact, what Daniel experienced is part of a wider phenomenon known as the wealthy heir syndrome. Studies show that when children are given too much too soon, they often lose the ability to fend for themselves. Dr. Raymond Thornton, an expert in wealth management, notes that 80% of family wealth is lost by the second or third generation. Why? Because people tend to undervalue and mismanage what they didn't earn. Think of it like being given an endless supply of cake. First, it sounds amazing, but soon the excitement fades, and what was once a treat turns into something that makes you feel sluggish and disconnected. The same happens with money. If it comes too easily, it can numb ambition and stifle growth. But there's hope. The Stoics believed that true wealth isn't about what you own, it's about what you can live without. Instead of handing over material gifts, Anna could have empowered Daniel by teaching him how to manage his money or encouraging him to build something on his own. Rather than giving him a financial crutch, she could have given him life lessons that would help him stand tall in the face of adversity. Seneca reminds us that a rich person isn't the one who has the most, the one who needs the least. Daniel had more than enough, but without a purpose, he became poor in spirit and ambition. So, before you decide to give your kids a large financial gift, ask yourself, am I giving them the tools to grow, or am I building them a golden cage of dependency? Remember, the most valuable gift isn't money. It's the ability to be self-sufficient, face life's challenges head-on, and to use wealth wisely. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, happiness doesn't come from external things. It comes from how we respond to life's challenges. If you found this lesson insightful, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. Here, we share stories and powerful lessons on life philosophy, personal finance, and self-development. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. Have you ever given your child something so significant, thinking it was the perfect gift, only to wonder later if it might be a burden in disguise? let's explore the hidden dangers of giving without preparation and how ancient Stoic wisdom can help us avoid turning gifts into traps. Anna, a loving mother who had always supported her son Daniel, wanted to surprise him with something that seemed straight out of a dream. "Daniel, I want to give you the family beach house. It's yours now," she said, beaming with pride. Daniel, filled with excitement, immediately began envisioning long, relaxing days by the ocean, living out his dream life. But what happens when that dream becomes a financial nightmare? As the Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "Poor man is not the one who has little, but the one who craves more." And Daniel was about to learn the hard way that sometimes you might wish you had never received the gift at all. Anna had good intentions, but she hadn't considered the hidden costs that came with the beach house. Annual taxes, maintenance, unexpected repairs, and the ever-mounting responsibilities of homeownership. What started as a dream quickly turned into a bottomless pit, swallowing Daniel's savings and turning his once idyllic vision into a financial disaster. This isn't an isolated case. In fact, many families find that inherited assets, which should bring joy, often lead to conflict. Let's take the Rodriguez family, for example. When their patriarch passed away, he left his beloved home to his children. What was intended as a loving gesture quickly devolved into a battlefield. Who would pay for the repairs? Who would live there? Should they sell it? Family gatherings that used to be filled with laughter became tense negotiations. Doors were slammed and relationships were damaged. The home that was supposed to unite them ended up driving them apart. Now, don't get me wrong, gifting property or wealth isn't inherently bad. The problem arises when we give without considering the broader implications, without proper planning, or without educating those we are giving to. As the psychologist Abraham Maslow wisely said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. In this case, Anna's hammer was her good intentions, but the problem required much more than a simple solution. The key here is financial education and thorough preparation. Before handing over assets, it's crucial to ensure that the recipient is ready to manage them. Do they have the financial stability to handle the upkeep? Do they understand the responsibilities that come with ownership? Taxes, insurance, and repairs? In Anna and Daniel's case, rather than simply handing over the house, Anna could have sat down with Daniel to discuss his option. Could they sell the house and split the money? Set up a maintenance fund? Maybe even turn the home into a rental property to generate income? Open communication and co-planning could turn a potentially dangerous situation into an opportunity for the family to grow together. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The gift only has true value if the person receiving it understands how to manage and use it wisely. Perhaps the real gift we should be giving our children isn't material wealth, but lessons in responsibility and financial wisdom. Anna's story shows us clearly that even the best intentions can lead to unintended consequences if we don't think through every angle. Anna had always been a devoted mother, eager to step in whenever her children, Daniel and his sister Maria, faced challenges. From the small everyday problems to the big life decisions, Anna was always there, ready to take on the burden for them. She believed she was helping, but in reality, she was creating a dependency. The small problems Daniel or Maria encountered were no longer opportunities for them to learn and grow. Instead, they became situations for Anna to rescue them from, taking away their ability to solve things on their own. This brings us to a widespread issue in modern parenting, often referred to as helicopter parenting. No, it doesn't mean parents literally flying in helicopters. It refers to parents hovering over their children's lives, constantly watching, intervening, and making decisions for them. Anna had unknowingly fallen into this trap. She thought that by always being there, always stepping in to fix things, she was making life easier for Daniel and Maria. But what she was really doing was robbing them of the chance to face life's challenges and develop their own independence. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "The important thing is not what happens to us, but how we respond to it." Without the opportunity to face and overcome difficulties, Daniel and Maria would never learn self-reliance. They would always turn to their mother for solution, instead of finding their own way through life's challenges. So what's the real lesson here? Sometimes, too much love and generosity can do more harm than good. Instead of giving our children material things, we should be giving them the tools to navigate life on their own. That's the priceless gift every parent should consider giving their children. Imagine you're at the gym. Instead of teaching you how to lift weights, your personal trainer lifts them for you. Do you think you'll get stronger? Of course not. In the same way, when we solve every problem for our children, we take away their chance to build emotional resilience and problem-solving skills. Research from the University of Florida has revealed a troubling trend. Young people raised by overprotective parents often struggle more when dealing with stress and pressure in everyday life. Like giving your child a map but taking away the compass, the very tool they need to find their way when they get lost. The real danger of over-involvement is clear. By constantly stepping in to help, we unintentionally limit our children's ability to grow. In the case of Anna and Daniel, the true solution wasn't in the gift of the beach house, but in the wisdom to prepare Daniel for the responsibilities in with it. As parents, we need to remember, the goal isn't to protect our children from every obstacle, but to give them the strength and skills to face those obstacles themselves. That's the real lesson from Stoic philosophy, and it's one that can make all the difference in raising strong, independent adults. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss our next video. We're here to share more stories, life lessons, practical wisdom about personal growth, finance, and living with purpose. And as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Anna's story is a vivid illustration, common modern dilemma. After retiring, she found herself with more time to help her 3 children. Yet the way she was helping them was unintentionally holding them back. Her eldest son, for example, frequently called his mother in a panic whenever he faced problems at work. His anxiety and helplessness overwhelmed him, and instead of offering guidance, Anna would step in to solve his issues for him. Her second child, her daughter, took a different route. She avoided any challenge that might make her uncomfortable or anxious. Even the thought of making a major decision on her own terrified her. Luis, the youngest, strived to be more independent than his siblings, but when difficulties arose, his mother was quick to intervene, even when he didn't ask for help. As psychologist Alfredo Oliva has pointed out, overprotection can look like love, but in reality it is fear. Fear that our children will face pain, fear that they will fail. But suffering and failure are critical parts of the learning and growth process. So, what should we do as parents? Should we let our children face every obstacle on their own, even at the risk of seeing them struggle or fail? The answer isn't as simple as a yes or no. Key lies in finding a balance. We can't shield our children from all difficulties, nor should we leave them entirely to fend for themselves. As philosopher Khalil Gibran said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself." Let life teach them its lessons, and let us, as parents, be the safe harbor they return to. Parental support must be thoughtful, with boundaries. Instead of doing everything for our children, we should give them space to grow, to experience, and to learn from their mistakes. Think of it like teaching a child how to ride a bike. In the beginning, you may use training wheels to provide stability, but eventually you have to let go so they can balance on their own. They may fall, they may get scraped knees, but it is those very falls that teach them how to stand back up and keep going. Anna eventually realized she needed to change her approach with her children. When her eldest son called about a work-related problem, instead of immediately offering a solution, she asked him, "What do you think you should do in this situation?" By doing this, Anna encouraged her children to think for themselves and solve their own problems, without relying on her to be the fixer. This wasn't an overnight transformation. It took time. But gradually, Anna started giving her children small challenges to face on their own. When they achieved even minor victories, she celebrated them. These small wins helped her children, especially her daughter, grow in confidence. With each challenge overcome, they began to trust in their own abilities to handle bigger issues. Anna's youngest, Luis, surprised her the most. Though he had always been more independent than his siblings, he had also leaned on his mother during tough times. But after Anna stepped back, he too began taking on more responsibility and handled challenges with greater resilience. Luis embraced the struggle, knowing that even if he failed, he could learn from the experience and keep moving forward. Through these small but meaningful changes, Anna's children began to stand on their own 2 feet. They learned to face difficulties without fear, because they understood that failure wasn't the end. It was just part of the journey. What Anna did is something we can all learn from as parents. By asking her children what they thought they should do, by giving them the space to make decisions and face consequences, she empowered them. She stopped trying to shield them from the inevitable bumps in the road and instead taught them how to navigate life's challenges on their own terms. We live in a world where many parents, out of love and concern, try to shield their children from every possible hardship. The term helicopter parenting has become almost cliché, yet it describes a very real issue in modern parenting. Parents hover over their children, ensuring they never have to experience discomfort, failure, or hardship. But as much as this approach comes from a place of love, it can do more harm than good. In a study conducted by researchers at the University of Florida, it was found that young adults who had been overprotected by their parents struggled more with stress and problem solving in everyday life. Without the opportunity to face and overcome difficulty, they lacked the resilience needed to handle the pressures of adulthood. It's like giving them a map, but taking away the compass, the tool they need to find their way when they're lost. Parenting, like life, is about balance. On one hand, we want to protect our children from unnecessary pain, making mistakes that could hurt them. On the other, we must recognize that these very experiences, failures, the challenges, the mistakes, are what shape them into strong, independent adults. Imagine a personal trainer at the gym who lifts the weights for you. You might feel relieved at first, but over time, you'd realize that you're not getting stronger, you're just becoming more dependent. In the same way, when parents rush to fix every problem, they prevent their children from developing the emotional and mental muscles needed to navigate life's complexity. Anna's breakthrough came when she stopped trying to fix everything for her children and instead started asking them what they thought they should do. This simple shift in approach made all the difference. By posing the question, Anna helped her children develop their own problem-solving skills. They began to think critically, evaluate their options, and trust in their own judgment. This didn't mean Anna disappeared from their lives. She remained a constant source of love and support. But instead of being their rescuer, she became their guide, giving them the space to learn and grow. As her children became more self-reliant, Anna's relationship with them also evolved. Instead of calling her in a panic, they called her to share their successes, talk through challenges, and sometimes just for advice, not for a solution. And that, for Anna, was the most rewarding part of it all. seeing her children become strong, confident, capable of facing life's challenges on their own. Life is full of challenges, and no matter how much we want to protect our children from them, we can't, and we shouldn't. Through the struggles, failures, and the hardships, we grow stronger. As parents, our job isn't to eliminate these challenges from our children's lives, but to equip them with the tools they need, face them head on. Let them fall and let them learn how to get back up, because only then will they truly understand what it means to stand tall and walk confidently through life. If this story resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for more insightful lessons on parenting, life philosophy, and personal growth. Leave a comment below with your thoughts. We'd love to hear how you balance supporting your children while encouraging their independence. Anna always believed she knew what was best for her children. With her boundless love, she constantly offered advice, thinking it was necessary, even when her children didn't ask for it. At first glance, this advice seemed harmless, but what Anna failed to see was that she was gradually building an invisible wall between herself and her kid. Unsolicited advice, no matter how well-intentioned, often carries an unintended message that she didn't fully trust her children to make their own decision. This became especially clear one day when Daniel, Anna's eldest son, began to distance himself. He was exhausted from his mother's constant interventions in his personal life. Meanwhile, her daughter started avoiding her calls altogether, and her youngest child, John, responded to her questions with short, curt answers. Anna sensed something was wrong, but it wasn't until one evening at a family dinner, where only John showed up, she truly began to understand. When Anna asked about her other children's absence, John sighed and admitted his siblings had grown tired of their mother's unsolicited advice. That was the shock Anna needed to reassess everything. She recalled the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus: "It's not the events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." With an open mind, Anna decided it was time to change. Instead of trying to offer solutions, every time her children faced a problem, she began to simply listen. She started asking gentle questions like, "How do you feel about this?" or "What do you think is best for you?" To her surprise, Anna found that her children began coming to her more frequently. But this time, they didn't seek her out for advice. They came because they felt heard and respected. They didn't want solutions. They wanted someone to listen and understand. According to a study, young adults whose parents respect their autonomy report higher levels of satisfaction in family relationships. Anna had found a new balance, being ready to support her children when needed, but not imposing her opinions on their lives. Anna's initial behavior, constantly offering advice, was driven by love, but she didn't realize it sent the message that she doubted her children's ability to handle their own lives. Her eldest son, Daniel, withdrew because he felt overwhelmed by his mother's interference. Every time she stepped in, he felt more incapable, as if his mother didn't believe in his judgment. For him, these helpful interventions chipped away at his confidence. Similarly, Anna's daughter avoided her, not because she didn't love her mother, but because every conversation seemed to turn into a lecture or a series of suggestions on how to live her life. Instead of feeling supported, she felt smothered, leading her to distance herself emotionally. And then there was John, the youngest, who seemed more tolerant, but still responded to his mother's questions with brief, detached answers. For him, it was easier to shut down the conversation quickly than to engage and risk getting unsolicited advice. Unsolicited advice, no matter how good-intentioned, can make adult children feel like their autonomy is being undermined. They may start to believe that their parents think they're incapable of making sound decisions on their own. This erodes trust and openness in the relationship, leading to emotional distance. When John confessed why his siblings were avoiding Anna, it was a painful realization for her. She had been offering advice because she cared, but she had overlooked one of the most important aspects of a healthy adult relationship: mutual respect. The Stoic philosophy, which emphasizes how our perceptions shape our reality, resonated with her. She realized that her children's avoidance wasn't just about the advice itself. It was about how she had been framing her role in their lives. In that moment, Anna made the conscious decision to change. She stopped assuming that her role was to solve her children's problems, and instead shifted to being a supportive listener. The next time Daniel came to her with a work issue, rather than jumping in with suggestions, she asked him, "What do you think you should do?" This small but significant change in approach allowed Daniel to feel empowered. He began to open up more, not because he wanted advice, but because he felt his mother trusted him to make his own decisions. This shift didn't just affect her relationship with Daniel. Her daughter, who had been avoiding her calls, started reaching out again. When Anna refrained from offering advice and instead asked open-ended questions, her daughter felt more comfortable sharing her thoughts and feelings. John, too, noticed the change in his mother's approach. Instead of short, transactional conversations, they began having deeper discussion. John appreciated that his mother wasn't trying to fix his problems, but was genuinely interested in how he felt and what he thought. Anna's transformation shows us an important lesson about parenting adult children: the need to strike a balance between being supportive and allowing them the space to figure things out for themselves. While parental advice is often rooted in love, it can easily become overbearing if it's not solicited. As children grow into adults, they seek autonomy and the confidence that comes from making their own decisions, even if those decisions lead to mistakes. By shifting her approach, Anna found that her children no longer avoided her. They didn't stop needing her. They still valued her wisdom and experience. But instead of coming to her out of obligation or guilt, they came to her because they felt respected and valued as individuals. This aligns with research showing that young adults whose parents encourage autonomy and decision-making experience greater well-being and stronger familial bonds. When parents act as guides rather than directors, they create an environment where trust and respect flourish. The change in Anna's behavior wasn't about withholding advice altogether. It was about giving her children the space to express themselves and think critically. She learned to listen more and talk less, allowing her children to take ownership of their lives. When they came to her with problems, she no longer jumped to fix them, but instead asked questions that helped her children explore their own solution. This wasn't easy for Anna at first. Her instinct was still to protect and guide. But with time, she realized that stepping back allowed her children to grow. They became more self-reliant, more confident in their ability to navigate life's challenges. They didn't always get things right, but they learned from their mistakes, something Anna now understood was essential for their growth. Through her journey of self-reflection, Anna not only repaired her relationship with her children, but she also strengthened it. She had built an atmosphere of trust and mutual respect. Her children no longer saw her as someone who didn't believe in their abilities. Instead, they saw her as a source of support and wisdom, someone they could turn to without fear of being lectured or judged. Anna's story is a reminder for all parents. The greatest gift we can give our children isn't endless advice or solutions, but the confidence to make their own choices and the understanding that, no matter what, we will be there to listen. Life is filled with decisions, both big and small. As much as we may want to guide our children every step of the way, they must ultimately learn to walk their own path. Like Anna, we must learn that sometimes the most helpful thing we can do is step back and trust in their ability to navigate life. When we do this, We not only give our children the space to grow, but we also foster stronger, more fulfilling relationships based on trust, respect, and mutual understanding. But that's only part of the story. Have you ever wondered whether your offhand comments could create rifts between your children? Each comparison between siblings is like an invisible brick, building a wall of division. In her well-meaning attempt to encourage and motivate her kids, Anna fell into the trap of comparison. These seemingly harmless remarks slowly hurt her children, creating feelings of comparison and competition. Developmental psychologist Abraham Maslow once said, "The best way to raise a child is to help them develop their own individuality." But Anna had unintentionally done the opposite, lowering her children's self-esteem and increasing tension within the family. Things came to a head at another dinner when John suddenly exploded. "You always do this, Mom. Maria is the perfect one, and Daniel is the successful. What about me? Am I the failure?" The room fell into silence. Anna realized that her words, intended to help and motivate, caused deep emotional wounds in her children. Many parents unknowingly fall into this trap without realizing it. A study from the University of Illinois found that children who are frequently compared to their siblings tend to develop self-esteem issues and anxiety as they grow up. Each comparison acts as another brick, building a wall between siblings and between the children and their parent. Psychologist Alfredo Oliva explains, comparisons between children can cause long-lasting harm. Not only does it damage sibling relationships, but it also deeply affects how children see themselves. Realizing her mistake, Anna decided to make a change. She sought the help of a psychologist and learned that each child is unique and deserves to be respected for who they are. Instead of comparing her children, she began practicing specific praise, focusing on each child's strengths and individual efforts without linking them to anyone else. These specific and sincere compliments slowly started to heal the emotional wounds Anna had unknowingly caused. Though the process wasn't immediate, over time, Anna noticed a transformation in her relationship with her children. The siblings began supporting each other more instead of competing. Family dinners were once again filled with laughter and sharing, rather than tension and rivalry. In the end, Anna learned that the most important thing wasn't trying to direct or compare her children, but to listen and respect the uniqueness of each one. She realized that what her children needed wasn't a life instruction manual, but the support of a mother who listened and respected their choices. As Seneca once said, "Treat those under your care as you would wish those above you to treat you." Anna applied this wisdom to her parenting, treating each of her children with the respect and individuality they deserve. The lesson is clear. Valuing each child's individuality not only strengthens their self-esteem, but also creates a healthier and more harmonious family environment. Like tending a garden, every flower needs its own space and care to bloom. Let's talk about unrealistic parental expectations. Expectations, much like balloons, can easily burst when overinflated. Anna had always nurtured big dreams for her children. She believed that she was doing the best thing by holding high hopes for their bright futures. One would become a famous artist, another a successful lawyer, and the youngest a thriving entrepreneur. But what happens when a parent's dreams unintentionally become a heavy burden on their children's shoulders? Imagine that from a young age, your mother repeatedly tells you that you have an innate artistic talent. "You're going to be the next Picasso," Anna would often say when admiring her son's new paintings. But what if your true passion was for music, not painting? Every time Anna's son picked up a paintbrush, he no longer felt joy, but rather an invisible pressure. As psychologist Carl Jung once said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another." In the same way, Anna's expectations felt like shoes that were too tight for Luis, making it impossible for him to comfortably pursue his own path. Anna's lofty expectations, though born out of love and good intentions, became suffocating for her children. Every time they heard about the dreams their mother had for them, it felt like an insurmountable burden on their shoulders. A recent study has shown that young people facing unreasonable parental expectations experience significantly higher levels of stress and anxiety. It's like asking them to climb Mount Everest without any preparation. Not only is it impossible, but it's also dangerous. Anna's middle child, who was always expected to become a brilliant lawyer, began to feel immense pressure. Before every exam, she panicked and was so anxious that she couldn't focus. The pressure to be perfect before even starting law school was slowly draining her energy. Does this sound familiar? We've all likely known someone who has fallen into the trap of such expectation. Anna's unrealistic expectations seemed to be a way for her to compensate for her own unfulfilled dreams. This created an unhealthy emotional cycle within the family. Her youngest son, realizing he could never meet the expectations his mother had set, decided to rebel. Instead of becoming the entrepreneur Anna had hoped for, he signed up for culinary school. At first, Anna's disappointment was evident, but deep down, she should have been proud that her son was courageous enough to follow his true passion. Imposing parental expectation is like giving your child a treasure map for something they have no interest in finding. Wouldn't it be better to hand them a compass to navigate their own path instead? Psychologist Martin Seligman, pioneer in positive psychology, has often reminded us that true happiness comes from discovering and developing our unique strengths. But how can children discover their strengths when they're too busy living up to their parents' expectations? Anna's biggest wake-up call came when her son announced to the family that he would quit painting to pursue a career in music. Instead of reacting with disappointment, Anna felt an unexpected sense of relief. She realized that her son had found his true passion, and this was far more important than him becoming the person she had envisioned. Anna's story offers us a valuable lesson. Instead of imposing our dreams on our children, we should support their real one. When we learn to let go of unrealistic expectations and allow our children to grow in their own way, they'll be happier, and the family bond will be stronger. Like nurturing a plant, if we give it the right amount of water and enough sunlight, it will bloom in the most natural and beautiful way. The renowned educator Dr. Spock once said, "Trust yourself. You know more than you think you do." It's time for us to trust our children too, and their ability to find their own path. Only then can they freely explore their true potential and achieve genuine happiness. Elena, a retired woman, is now facing an uncomfortable situation that many parents experience: being taken for granted by their children. She had spent her entire life caring for and loving her children, but now it seemed that the relationship was fading and growing distant. It all started when her youngest son, Carlos, asked to move back in temporarily. "Just for a few months, Mom," he said, and with a kind heart, Elena agreed without much thought. One day, Anna's son expressed his desire to move back in with her for a while. Without much thought, Anna quickly agreed. This was only the beginning. What was supposed to be a temporary arrangement soon turned into a year, and Anna began to realize that she wasn't just giving her son a temporary place to stay. She was gradually falling back into her old role. She was cooking, cleaning, and doing laundry for her 30-year-old son. This made her question herself. Was she helping her son, or was she unintentionally hindering his growth? She felt like she was no longer his mother, but rather a housekeeper in her own home. As the philosopher Khalil Gibran once said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself." This statement sparked a profound realization in Anna. Unconditional love does not mean unconditional sacrifice. Sometimes, setting boundaries is necessary to maintain a healthy relationship and to help children grow. According to Dr. Laura Markham, real love is not without limits. Setting healthy boundaries is also a way of showing love. Anna began to understand that, although she only wanted to help her son, she was actually shielding him from difficulty. And this was stunting his growth. One day she decided to have an honest conversation with him. She said, "I love you very much, but we need to set some boundary. You need to learn how to take responsibility for your own life." Anna expected a negative reaction, but to her surprise, her son also felt trapped in the situation. He didn't know how to break free and start living independently. Together, they made a plan. He would start contributing to household expenses and take responsibility for his own chores. In return, Anna promised not to interfere with his decisions and to give him space to grow. As a result, both of them found balance in their relationship. He learned the value of responsibility and independence, while Anna regained her sense of autonomy and peace. However, things weren't entirely easy. Anna still felt that something was off. Although she had tried to make changes, feeling of disconnection with her children lingered. Weighed down by this, she decided to seek advice from her neighbor, Don Javier, a man known for his wisdom and deep knowledge. "Don Javier," Anna said with a trembling voice as she stood at his door, "I need your help. I feel like I'm losing my connection with my children." Don Javier smiled and invited her inside. "Anna, you've come to the right place. Did you know that ancient Stoic philosophers had a lot to say about parenting?" Anna was surprised. Stoicism? How could ancient philosophy help her in this situation? Don Javier explained, "The Stoics believed in loving with detachment. It may sound contradictory, but it's like holding a bird. If you hold it too tightly, you hurt it. If you hold it too loosely, it flies away. The key is to create a supportive environment while giving your children the freedom to grow on their own." Anna listened intently. Don Javier continued, "Epictetus taught that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. You must learn to let your children face their own challenges, instead of shielding them from everything. It's the only way they'll truly grow." Anna realized she had made a significant mistake by trying to protect her children from every hardship. Failing to set boundaries and constantly intervening in their lives was not an act of love, but a barrier to their growth. She decided to change her approach. She started practicing listening rather than judging, and she no longer jumped in to solve every problem for her children. Anna realized that, like young trees, her children needed challenges to grow on their own. Her role was to create an environment where they could develop in their own way. When her son decided to enroll in culinary school instead of pursuing the business career she had envisioned for him, Anna was no longer disappointed. Instead, she felt proud that her son had discovered his true passion. Anna learned that love doesn't mean protecting your children from every difficulty. It means giving them the opportunity to overcome challenges and grow. Thanks to Don Javier's advice, Anna understood that setting boundaries and giving her children space to grow was essential to maintaining a healthy family relationship. True love is not about control, but about offering the right amount of support. A year later, the family dynamic didn't just improve on a personal level. It created an atmosphere of mutual support. Anna's children began helping one another, sharing experiences, and passing along knowledge and skills they had developed. The family was no longer a place bound by obligation, but became a space of mutual respect and companionship. They understood that allowing each person to grow and find their own path was essential. In the end, Anna found peace. After years of trying to solve all of her children's problems, she realized that real love wasn't about control, but about creating an environment where her children could grow with the right amount of support and healthy boundary. When you reflect on your own family, ask yourself, Are you giving your children the tools to soar freely, or are you unintentionally keeping them in a golden cage of protection? As psychologist Abraham Maslow once said, the healthiest way to raise a child is to help them develop their own individuality. If you're also struggling to find the balance between loving and letting your children become independent, remember that sometimes letting go at the right moment is the strongest form of love. Give your children the freedom to grow, to explore, and to fail, because that is how they truly grow up. If you found this lesson helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss more valuable content. Share this video with your loved ones so we can all learn and grow together. And if you have any questions or ideas, feel free to leave a comment below. I always read and respond to your thoughts. See you in the next video.